This is the story of Shugo Mikadono, the son of Kumagoro Mikadono, the CEO of the massive Mikadono Group, one of Japan's biggest conglomerates. Shugo was living comfortably until his father's death shocks the entire country and hits him like a bucket of ice water. Not only is he grieving the loss of his father after a long illness, but he also faces a future that's knocking at his door. Even while in mourning, he has to prepare to become the next CEO. After the funeral, his mother insists that he needs to find a girl who will care for him, put up with him, and, most importantly, marry him after he finishes high school. She enrolls him in Miryuin Academy, a prestigious old school where the elite of Japanese society go, and where there will be plenty of candidates to choose from. To ensure he doesn't forget his mission, she gives him an apartment near the campus for complete privacy. Shugo can do nothing but accept his fate and put on a brave face. As he starts this new chapter in his life, he encounters a beautiful girl with jet black hair and a sweet expression leading a bakery, blissfully eating a freshly baked vanilla bun that's almost as soft and fluffy as she is. Suddenly, a truck speeds towards her, and Shugo pushes her out of the way to save her from becoming a real-life Isekai protagonist. She thanks him for saving her life and introduces herself as Kono Tsuruma, the class representative and vanilla bun lover. Before heading to school, they take a break to enjoy Kono's buns, and between laughter and bites, they realize they don't need introductions. They instantly feel a deep connection. Soon, their teacher Kotori introduces him to a group that's on his level, which just so happens to include Kono. As soon as he arrives, he grabs everyone's attention as the future heir. But Shugo is more interested in getting to know Kono than anyone else. He feels a strange sense of familiarity, even though he can't recall his past due to a traumatic injury. His biggest enemy is his doubt, unable to believe they're just now becoming friends, despite the present pushing him away from Kono's warm lips. The culprit is Miyabi, a classmate who was napping in a tree and interrupted their display of affection. Miyabi is against any immoral affection at school unless it's from her. As the afternoon fades, Shugo returns to his apartment, tired but happy after a great first day. To his surprise, he receives a birthday cake along with a Power Ranger toy he wanted since he was a kid. Despite the joy of someone remembering his birthday, he's puzzled about who sent it. Almost immediately, a call chills him to the bone. A familiar voice on the other end calls him little brother, the same voice he heard at his father's funeral and didn't think much of. The voice admits to watching him from afar while he was with Kono and Miyabi, observing every word he said, every day he's lived, every step he's taken. Shugo realizes this girl is at his school and is keeping an eye on him. As he talks with Kono, he spots a small figure spying on him and running away when he approaches, finding her on the rooftop, scared like a lost child. The girl introduces herself as Mei Sagura, a third-year student and owner of a cafe where you can experience being an older brother or sister while enjoying delicious desserts. She explains that calling him Oni-sama is just a courtesy for potential future clients, so she isn't actually his sister. Shugo doesn't fully understand why she's been spying on him, but Mei insists she sees him as a gold mine as the future heir and invites him to visit her cafe. The next morning, he goes searching for his family records to find a clue about his supposed sister, but with no success. Out of the blue, a mysterious man drags him into an alley at knife point. This man, known as Mr. X, is an agent of the Saryu Association, a secret agency handling issues related to the Mikadono Group. The association knows about his father's supposed illegitimate daughter with a former partner, though his mother kept it a secret so Shugo could live a normal life, and he doesn't know or want to know her. In short, the only people who know are his mother and the illegitimate daughter who wants to marry him. Mr. X asks if there's any girl who's recently become his friend. Shugo is puzzled since many girls have approached him since his father's death, but he doesn't suspect any of them. What he really wants is to find his half-sister. Meanwhile, Kono invites him to the annual school dance organized by the student council. He gladly accepts despite Miyabi's protests because he wants to get to know her better. However, another student catches his eye, the new transfer student, Ekusu, a charming guy with honey-colored eyes who attracts all the attention and captivates the girls with his charm and words. Shugo quickly realizes that Ekusu is actually Mr. X, who has enrolled in the academy to stay close to his sister. To find out if there's any relation, he asks Ekusu to help him get a saliva sample for a DNA test. The operation begins in the apartment, starting with a bath to remove any traces of Mr. X, so he takes a bath and cleans up. By accident, Shugo discovers that Mr. X is actually Mrs. X. Since the Saryu Association only accepts men, Ekusu hid her gender, enrolled to be an agent, and follow in the footsteps of her future boss. On the other hand, Kono and Shugo attend the school dance, enjoying the performance by the student council president, Mana. They don't let the reprimands from the vice president, Rinka, spoil their evening. Under the jealous stars, they dance to a delicate waltz that makes the audience sigh. Mana and Rinka ask the couple of the night to perform a piece, and Rinka takes Shugo to dance a tango. The strict vice president feels the air around her perfume with the rhythm of their movements, knowing the struggle is fierce and rejecting his charm would be like losing her heart. But the charm fades when the orchestra stops, and she feels something more from her dance partner than just a tango. Shugo steps outside for some fresh air and catches Miyabi sitting there, gazing up at the moon. He wants to go over and ask her to dance since the music's nearing its final notes. At first, Miyabi hesitates, saying she can't dance, but Shugo couldn't care less. All he wants is to make her happy, without worrying about whether she might fall for him or if her chest might show anything. Once the dance ends, Shugo heads home, his face sore from smiling so much, and also from a kick from Rinka. Once again, a call from his mysterious sister reminds him she's been watching him. Ikusu thinks the most logical way to find her is to marry him and have lots of kids to figure out who's against their relationship. Shugo shows him that having kids isn't just about cuddling and waiting for storks to deliver them. Mr. X doesn't waste any time practicing how to have his boss's kids, even if it means Kono and Miyabi see them as two really affectionate guys. As usual, he gets another call from his sister, and all he gets on the other end are taunts. To make things worse, Kono and Miyabi try to get him back on the straight and narrow after seeing him with Ikusu. The girls keep him under their charms to steer him away from depravity. At school and away from it, Miyabi and Kono don't leave him alone, thinking that if they become his little sisters, he'll start liking girls again. They cuddle him to get him used to their warmth. In the middle of this mess, Shugo realizes he hasn't received any calls since the girls have been with him, meaning one of them might be his real sister. After losing track of them, Mana and Rinka take care of him in the student council and decide to set up a date with both girls to keep them happy. That afternoon, he thinks it's a great idea and ends up on a date with Miyabi at the mall. The date goes well until a torrential downpour hits the city. Miyabi takes him to her place to dry off before he catches a cold while trying on the swimsuit she picked out for him. Shugo notices Miyabi keeps a Power Ranger figurine like the one he got for his birthday. Without any shame, he asks her who she's in love with, who she's obsessed with, and if she's expecting to see him at the altar. Miyabi admits she's always seen him. He's always been the one she dreamed of, but it can't be because he's her brother. Miyabi asks him to leave before she starts crying from the disappointment of not being able to love him. Kono senses the tension between them is palpable. When she sees Miyabi staring off into the distance without talking to anyone, she remembers how things were in their first year. Kono asks her to explain what's going on because she's not ready to lose a friend over a misunderstanding. Shugo tells her everything, not realizing how much it would affect her. Meanwhile, Ikusu updates him on his investigation. A few years back, a phone with voice-changing features hit the market, and with few units available, it's easy to guess who might have it. Hearing this, Shugo searches the city, looking for Kono in every place he's been with her. Just before the day ends, they meet in the same spot with the same people where they were first happy. Kono can't stand the pretense anymore because her heart has been aching. She confesses that she sent the birthday cake with the Power Ranger and the photo. Her parents were old friends and business partners who spent a lot of time together. One terrible sunny summer day, they went to an amusement park with Shugo's dad, spending the day in games and laughter, until one moment when Kono crossed the street without noticing a car coming towards her. Shugo didn't hesitate to jump in and save her, even if it meant losing his memory and getting a scar on his forehead. From that day, their parents grew apart and became business rivals. Kono felt so guilty about distancing herself from him that when she heard he was transferring, she prepared a special surprise. She found his apartment and phone number, baked him a birthday cake, got an anime figurine they liked as kids, and called him Onisama because that's what they called his character. Kono isn't his sister, even though she always wanted to be. Playing her role over the phone gave her a break from the pain she's carried since the accident. Shugo tells her he won't ask her anything or make her explain, and that he'll finally give her the kiss he denied before. Just then, Miyabi bursts into the scene, brushing off the kiss they almost shared and saying that when Shugo marries her like they did as kids, apparently, they're childhood friends and somehow got married. Miyabi reveals she was with him when he was hospitalized for his head injury. Since her dad was also in the hospital, she met Shugo, who gave her joy during that bitter time, without realizing that a great love was growing in her heart. So, Shugo clears up that Kono and Miyabi aren't his sisters, just girls who are hopelessly in love with him. While dealing with their seduction games, he thinks about his real sister, who's far away. One day, his phone rings at sunrise. A familiar voice calls out Onisama from the other end, scolding him for reading smut instead of going to bed early. Just waking up, Shugo doesn't get why she knows that, especially since he's kept it a secret. He's even more confused about why she's calling him at such early hours and keeping him from sleeping properly. Coincidentally, Kono is also up early to check on Shugo. While it's clear that Kono isn't his little sister, it's still strange that she's been up so early and has been by his house. The day passes with him imagining his wedding to Kono. The thought of joining with such a beautiful girl as Kono evaporates when he considers that she might actually be his younger sister in the end. This feeling leaves him disgusted yet intrigued. Ikusu shares his suspicion that Kono might be his sister and continues using the voice-modifying phone. As I mentioned before, there are only a few of these voice-changing phones. Anyone can impersonate her if they have the phone and know about his little sister. Shugo remembers he talked about this with Rinka, Mana, Mei, and Miyabi when he asked for their help to find Kono. So, any of them could be the culprit. The situation gets more complicated with the constant calls Shugo receives from early morning, which keep him awake and worsen his health. Mei sees him with more dark circles than eyes and takes him to the academy's attic so he can rest. At first, Shugo is uncomfortable about sleeping with an older girl, but Mei clarifies that she's only older by a month and that he should hurry up and lie down next to her because that's the quickest route to paradise. Shugo does the opposite and starts going through the naughty magazines lying around in the attic. Along with Miyabi, he's wandering the streets late at night, hoping to find that place he's heard so much about, the Little Sisters Cafe. The next day, he visits Mei in the attic again, mostly out of curiosity, to ask why she has a Little Sisters Cafe. His little senpai explains that she grew up with the idea that there's no eternal love in this world, and what you don't see soon gets forgotten. At just 2 years old, she was abandoned in an orphanage, not knowing who her parents were or even her birth date. From an early age, she showed a genius for math, and a professor adopted her to live with him and his wife, who ran the same cafe she now works at. Her adoptive mother passed away after a long illness, and she lived with her father in the US for a few years, where she went to university. A few years later, she wrote a scientific paper that earned her a lot of money, which she used to buy her mother's cafe. Mei wants to show him that paper, not realizing that behind her books is the same phone Shugo is searching for. He informs Ikusu and immediately rules out that hypothesis, but considers that Mei could be younger than him if there are no records of her birth. On the other hand, Shugo hears the rumor that Mei will close her cafe and return to the US for no apparent reason. It's actually because of a promise she made to her father before coming back to Japan. If the business failed, she would return to the US and become an investigator like him. Shugo puts his problems aside and focuses on saving the cafe, despite Mei's insistence that everything has an end and nothing lasts forever. He seeks help from the brightest minds at the Miryu Academy, from the otaku who does drawing commissions to the president of the journalism club, all of whom agree to assist as long as they get something in return. Likewise, Kono, Mana, and Rinka dedicate their efforts to this noble cause. The event is a huge success, featuring adorable cat maids, delicious food, and the most handsome boys from Miryu High School as waiters. By the end of the day, the plan saves the cafe, so Mei won't have to give up on her dream. Grateful beyond measure, Mei proposes marriage to preserve their valuable genes and have brilliant children. Fortunately, Ikusu swoops in with bad news. The technical document used as the basis for the voice changer was authored by Mei Sagura, so the document with which she opened her cafe was actually from Mei, and she might be his sister. Shugo confronts Mei, sure that she has been spying on him from her window, calling him every morning to tire him out so he would sleep with her. Every detail, from the overcast day she visited him at the funeral to the story of the struggling cafe, was a setup to catch him in her trap. Mei admits she has known about his sister since her mother ran the cafe and did everything to protect her. His sister is an illegitimate child who would be torn apart by the Mikadono family if discovered, and Mei won't let Shugo meet her until he proves himself to be the best big brother ever and promises to always love her. Once this issue is resolved, Shugo deals with the dilemma of having Kono and Miyabi always clinging to him, the cruel uncertainty that any girl he's with might be his sister unknowingly. Ikusu reminds him that his mission is to find a woman to marry after he graduates and suggests that the three of them take a DNA test, which only requires some mucus, blood, saliva, or urine to clear up any doubts. The girls agree to let Shugo swab their body cavities as long as it brings peace of mind. Kono allows her soft fingers to be explored by Shugo, while Miyabi misinterprets Kono's gestures, creating a scene. Rinka asks them to behave since the technical council is visiting and everything needs to be perfect. The president of the council, who is an executive at a major company, is interested in meeting the only child of Kumagoro Mikadono. During the discussion, a message from Kumagoro's younger daughter ruins any chance of business relations, and they again suspect one of the girls might be impersonating her. A detail they overlooked is that Mei threw away the phone, and someone else picked it up to play that nasty trick. Shugo turns to the disciplinary committee to track down the imposter. Ikusu suspects Rinka, as she was absent during the incident and appeared after the message ended. He organizes raids with Rinka and Shiga, a first-year student, to clean out the academy's immoral impurities. Over time, Shugo becomes an instrument of decency and good morals, unwavering despite temptation. His commitment is so strong that he forgets to live and investigate Rinka. Ikusu thinks he should ask Rinka out to avoid being his subordinate, suggesting an amusement park to boost their emotions. Mana, Rinka, Ikusu, and Shugo have a fun afternoon at the park, trying to get the vice president and the young Mikadono to grow closer, hoping to extract information between adventures and excitement. The plan works so well that Shugo forgets his goal, focusing instead on lifting Rinka's spirits. They ride the wooden carousel, which rocks and splashes water on them, and buy cute things like a raccoon keychain, much like the phone Mei lost. Shugo confronts Rinka, but she avoids the topic. She finally clarifies that she did it because before the council's visit, she was threatened with attacking the Mikadono group with information about the illegitimate daughter. Rinka had no choice but to follow the orders of her future husband's father, as her parents arranged the marriage without her consent. She did everything to teach the council president a lesson and would not let anything threaten the boy who made her happier in a couple of days than she had ever been in her life. Rinka doesn't want to miss her chance to give herself to her senpai, even if Shiga catches them doing indecent things in the disciplinary committee room. Soon after, Rinka's parents annul their marriage arrangement so she can spend more time with her beloved. As time passes, Shugo meets his new neighbor, Yuzurina Househo, a little girl with crystal clear eyes whom he met during the council's visit. Yuzurina asks him to be kind to her as a good older brother. As it turns out, Yuzurina says everyone thinks they are second cousins on their father's side, but she is actually his sister. Her parents don't know she is her father's illegitimate child, so she must keep it a secret. Shugo introduces Yuzurina to the girls so they understand the situation and help keep the secret. However, none of them fully believe her due to past experiences. On top of that, his mother forces him to attend the company party to get used to high society life, and the girls fight over who will accompany him to dinner. Yuzurina views them as improper women trying to exploit her Onisama's innocence, while Kono wants to give him her heart like a sweet bun decorated with strawberries. Even if he wanted to indulge in earthly pleasures, there's a chilling piece of news. Yuzurina is his sister. The DNA test revealed that they share family ties. Shugo immediately goes to her apartment to confirm she's his little sister. Yuzurina cannot contain her overwhelming joy as she has finally shown love through actions. Yuzurina asks to accompany him to the company dinner to be introduced to society, although the thought of public opinion makes her hesitate. She wonders if Shugo is autumn in her life and she is sweet spring, but the secret of having a brother who loves her remains. So, Yuzurina, Rinka, Kono, Mei, Miyabi, and Shugo dress up for the Mikadono family dinner, where the cream of Japanese society gathers to celebrate their achievements. Everyone enjoys themselves except Miyabi, who seems lost in her thoughts before they even arrive. Mei can't find her anywhere and she doesn't answer her calls. Shugo goes to search for her in the building, only to be stopped by Ikusu. At first, Shugo doesn't understand why until he sees the family secretary speaking suspiciously on the phone. Ikusu warns that the secretary is part of a plot to prevent Shugo from becoming the company president. They can't accuse her of conspiracy without evidence, as she handles sensitive information about the Mikadono family. Additionally, his mother might learn that Yuzurina is the illegitimate child, which would have disastrous consequences for the little girl. For now, they can only let things unfold until they get to the bottom of it. Meanwhile, Yuzurina finds Miyabi, who had been talking about Shugo the entire time, expressing how much she loves him. Yuzurina sees her as a good woman for Shugo to marry once he finishes high school. Miyabi, meanwhile, drowns her sorrows in alcohol, believing she's learned to drink water. Despite her drunken state and the scene she creates, Shugo takes care of her and puts her in a room until the clock stops ticking. Miyabi wakes him up at midnight, still intoxicated and yearning to merge her body with his, breaking down as her heart cracks. She confesses that the loneliness and immense fear of dying away from him have made her cry since he left. She asks for forgiveness if she tears up, as the memories have been painful. After the evening ends, Shugo thanks his friends for joining him on such an important night, but his mother immediately scolds him for bringing such common girls to a high society party. Once the excitement fades, it's back to the little joys of married life. Yuzurina prepares meals, Shugo goes to school, and Ikusu spends his nights investigating the conspiracy. After school, Kono and Shugo visit Miyabi to take care of her cold. When they arrive, they find her perfectly healthy and maybe not too keen on their company, as she's holed up in her room reading. Miyabi, frustrated by the lack of affection, threatens not to go to school unless Shugo kisses her. Shugo gives in, but only if they agree to a date on Sunday afternoon. Meanwhile, Shugo's constant doubts about whether Yuzurina is his sister or if it's Kono who was seen at the funeral, combined with the conspiracy from the Secretariat and Miyabi's mood, are taking a toll on his health. Desperate, he turns to the student council to check the admission exam records from the day of the funeral. During his date with Miyabi, they explore the city, finding joy in the simple things, going to the movies, eating out, and watching puppies. Miyabi reciprocates with an impromptu modeling session. With his nerves calmer, Miyabi prepares for the upcoming annual swimming competition. The day wraps up with a visit to the cafe run by the sisters, where the threats behind the door seem less important. What matters now is being there for each other. Though Shugo isn't completely comfortable with treating Miyabi like a younger sister, Mei, on the other hand, is happy to see an old friend enjoying time with someone they love. As the afternoon fades, Miyabi musters the courage to ask Shugo one last time to be her boyfriend. Shugo is grateful for the chance to be an important part of her life, but can't reciprocate her feelings. This breaks Miyabi's heart and leaves Shugo filled with doubt. He can't trust anyone despite their years of closeness and fears the family secretariat might have falsified the DNA test to ruin his life and separate him from his loved ones. Ikusu emerges from the darkness to determine Yuzurina's fate, or should we say the child star Dano Neyuri, from the series he used to watch as a kid. Yuzurina admits to everything, proudly saying she played her role for a job she accepted. Before leaving, she bids farewell to her false brother, telling him that in the rich neighborhood, it's all just money and no love. The next day, Shugo deals with the betrayal and the horrifying fear of not finding his sister. He learns from Mei that Miyabi had a nervous breakdown during practice. Seizing the chance, Shugo apologizes to her now that everything is clear. He explains that she went to his father's funeral because she was admitted to the academy on a sports scholarship. The student council records show she took the exam on a different day. Miyabi recalls that when she first met Shugo, her father and his were arguing about keeping her existence a secret. After that day, she never saw him again, left with an envelope of money to buy her silence. The weight of realizing that the first man she loved was her brother, combined with seeing him kiss Kono, was too much for her. She also discovered Yuzurina's deceit and was a victim of her manipulations before Shugo and Ikusu even suspected anything. Shugo tells her not to be afraid and not to ask him anything because he has nothing to explain. He just wants to hold her and count the beats of her heart, showing that habit is stronger than love. All the girls celebrate their triumph, especially Miyabi, who feels like her brother's eyes are on her and no one else. Ah, what a sweet sibling relationship. Later, the siblings spend their first days together, but soon Shugo realizes that Miyabi doesn't have Yuzurina's or Kono's cooking skills. Speaking of Kono, she shows up at an inconvenient moment, finding them in a compromising situation. Throughout the day, the closeness between the siblings becomes a burden for the other girls, who can't continue their lives as if nothing happened. Kono, Rinka, and Mei get tired of the games and decide to make a pact to have a chance to date Shugo. Their plan is that each girl will have a date with him, and the best date will win a Shugo all-inclusive. The first is Mana, who takes him on a culinary journey full of flavor and warmth, and Shugo enjoys tasting the delicate treats the president offers. The second is Mei, who takes him on a tour of all the themed cafes in the city, from a gothic cafe run by journalism girls to one with beautiful older women. They end up dining at the cafe run by the sisters. The third is Ikusu, who spares no expense or affection for his companion. He doesn't care what people say and instead takes his hand and walks with him, looking straight ahead. One by one, the young Mikadono goes on dates with the girls. Rinka introduces him to her parents at the family inn, all under the guise of wanting to get married without him knowing. The final date is with Kono, Miyabi, and Shugo. Away from the competition, the three friends have the best time, better than any date they could have ever imagined. The day ends with a visit to a bridal fair, where Shugo is left breathless when he sees how stunning Kono looks in white. They are like love-struck fools who chose to be more foolish and happy than anyone else. If you enjoyed this summary and want to stay updated on more anime content, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to ring the bell icon so you never miss an update. Let us know in the comments what you think about Kono Naka ni Hidori and Mato Gairu, and if there are any other series you'd like us to cover. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time for more anime adventures.